It just occurred to me that as the description of a highly sophisticated technological achievement,
I'm not expendable, I'm not stupid, and I'm not going. If you remember Villarreal muttering those words while reluctantly following his crew into another impossible mission, then friend, you already know where this is going. But I promise you, you are not ready for how it ended. Picture it, 1978. You're adjusting the rabbit ears, settling in for something different, something darker. While American TV handed us heroes who always won, British television gave us Blake 7, a show where the good guys lost, constantly, painfully, where the rebels you rooted for might not make it to the credits. This is the story of 7 desperate criminals who dared to fight an empire that had already won. And that ending? The one that left audiences sitting in genuine silence, staring at a black screen? We're getting there. But first, you need to understand exactly what they were up against.
No, this isn't going to be easy for you, but I'm going to have to tell you things about yourself of which you have no memory. Will you hear me out?
The story, Part 1, The World and Heroes. The Galaxy Under the Boot. The Terran Federation stretched across the stars like a disease with a bureaucracy. This wasn't your friendly Starfleet or your scrappy rebel alliance. This was totalitarian nightmare fuel wrapped in administrative efficiency. Citizens were chemically pacified, drugged into compliance through the water supply. Political dissidents were mind-wiped, their memories surgically erased, their identities hollowed out and replaced. The Federation didn't just rule the galaxy, it crushed the very concept of resistance before it could form. Blake 7 first aired in 1978, and it offered viewers something television almost never provided, a universe where evil had already won. The Empire wasn't rising, it had risen. The darkness wasn't coming, it was here, and it had been here for a long time. And into this defeated, hopeless world stepped one man stubborn enough to believe things could be different. What made this universe feel special? It felt lived in, dirty, real in a way that polished sci-fi never managed. Spaceships broke down, plans failed spectacularly, heroes made terrible choices and lived, or didn't, with the consequences. This was science fiction for adults, cleverly disguised as adventure television.
We must try to unravel this fantasy.
It is not a fantasy.
Of course it isn't.
The Man Who Wouldn't Stay Broken. Roj Blake was no chosen one. There was no prophecy, no special destiny written in the stars. He was an ordinary man who remembered too much. The Federation had already erased his memories once before, wiped away his revolutionary past, dismantled his convictions, and turned him into a compliant, useful citizen. They thought they'd finished him. But memories have a way of surfacing. When Blake discovered the truth about himself, about the resistance he once led, about what had been taken from him, something ignited in the wreckage. An idealist was reborn from the ashes of a broken man. Blake possessed that rarest quality in their universe: hope. Genuine, stubborn, possibly delusional hope. He believed the Federation could fall. He believed people were worth saving, even when they'd stopped saving themselves. He gathered outcasts and criminals around him, not through strength or cunning, but through the sheer gravitational pull of someone who actually believed tomorrow could be better. That belief would cost him everything. But we'll get to that.
And my death would merely reinforce those beliefs. It's exactly the same as if I were arraigned for being at a prescribed political meeting.
The crew of misfits. Avon was Blake's opposite in every conceivable way, and the most compelling character the show ever produced. A computer genius and convicted embezzler, Avon trusted nothing and no one, and made absolutely no apology for it. Where Blake saw potential allies, Avon saw liabilities. Where Blake dreamed of revolution and liberation, Avon calculated survival odds and found them wanting. Their partnership was electric. Two men who genuinely needed each other and could barely stand each other for more than 20 minutes at a stretch. Avon once articulated exactly what he thought of causes and crusades and people who threw themselves into the machinery of history for the sake of an idea. He stayed anyway. That contradiction, the cynic who kept showing up, was what made him unforgettable. Vila Restal brought something equally essential to the group: humanity. A professional thief with a rare aristocratic talent for self-preservation, Vila was the everyman among revolutionaries. Cowardly? Absolutely. And he'd be the first to tell you. Loyal when it actually mattered? Every single time, without fail. His complaints and protests became the voice of the audience, the reasonable person in the room asking why exactly they kept volunteering for suicidal missions. Jenna Stannis piloted their ship, a smuggler whose instincts and skills kept them alive more times than anyone bothered to count. Callie brought telepathic abilities and an alien perspective that the crew desperately needed. Gon provided muscle and a quiet moral conscience, until tragedy claimed him. And later, Tyranny, Dana, and Sulin joined, each carrying their own skills, their own damage, their own private reasons for fighting a war they hadn't started. This wasn't a military unit. It was a family of broken people who found purpose in each other.
Avon, shut up. Please.
The woman who commanded everything. Then there was Servalan, Supreme Commander of the Terran Federation's military forces. Servalan didn't merely serve the corrupt empire, she embodied it, refined it, gave it elegance. Beautiful, brilliant, and absolutely without mercy. She wore pristine white gowns while ordering massacres. She smiled warmly at people she was planning to destroy. Servalan wanted power the way other people wanted oxygen, not as a luxury, but as a biological necessity. What made her genuinely terrifying wasn't cruelty. Plenty of villains were cruel. Servalan was competent. She played political games across multiple fronts simultaneously, survived coup attempts that would have ended anyone else, lost her official position entirely, and simply reinvented herself as Commissioner Sleer to continue her machinations without missing a step. The woman was functionally unkillable. Her obsession with Blake's crew, and with Avon in particular, added layers to every single confrontation. She respected them even as she hunted them. She admired what they were even as she worked to end it, and she never, ever stopped. Remember that name, Commissioner Sleer. It becomes important at the very end.
And do you fully understand the nature and gravity of those charges?
Yes.
The story, Part 2, The Journey and Ending, Victories that felt like miracles. Against all reasonable probability, Blake's crew actually won sometimes. They captured the Liberator, an alien vessel faster and more powerful than anything the Federation possessed, a ship that felt almost alive. They struck military installations. They disrupted supply lines. They demonstrated repeatedly that the Federation could bleed. Each mission played like a heist film set among the stars. Plans went wrong in ways nobody anticipated. Improvisation saved the day at the last possible moment. The crew bickered constantly while somehow pulling off the impossible through sheer combined stubbornness. These weren't polished professionals executing precision operations. They were talented amateurs surviving on luck, skill, and a refusal to accept the obvious conclusion. The show understood something fundamental about storytelling. Victory means more when you've watched defeat. Blake's 7 let its heroes fail, genuinely, painfully fail. Operations collapsed. Friends died and didn't come back. The Federation adapted, learned from every encounter, and counterattacked harder. Every triumph was earned through cost. That balance, hope held in tension against despair, victory shadowed by loss, kept viewers invested across 4 series.
I knew you'd like it.
The mission evolved. Blake himself disappeared after the 2nd series, leaving Avon in command of a ship and a crew he'd never asked for. The dynamic shifted dramatically. Blake's idealism was replaced by Avon's pragmatism. The cause grew murkier with every passing episode. Were they still freedom fighters with a genuine purpose, or simply survivors going through the motions of rebellion? Even the crew seemed uncertain. Avon led differently than Blake, colder, more calculating, willing to make decisions that Blake never would have entertained. The crew followed him anyway, perhaps because they needed something to follow, perhaps because Avon, for all his cynicism, kept them breathing when nothing else should have. New enemies emerged, old alliances shattered. Servalan's return as Commissioner Sleer proved she was simply impossible to truly defeat. The Federation they'd spent years striking against absorbed every blow and kept advancing. By the fourth series, they were running out of options, running out of hope, running out of reasons. They needed Blake. But finding Blake? That's exactly where everything started to unravel.
But what is this? I was told you had some news about.
No, not me. The man we're going to meet.
The search for a ghost. Word reached Avon that Blake was alive, operating somewhere on a frontier world called Gouda Prime, working, of all things, as a bounty hunter. A bounty hunter. Blake, the man who had believed in humanity's fundamental worth, was now hunting people for payment? Avon told himself he didn't believe it. Couldn't believe it. But doubt had a way of finding purchase in him, and years of betrayal had conditioned him to assume the worst until proven otherwise. What if Blake had changed? What if the Federation had finally succeeded in breaking what they'd failed to erase? What if the man Avon had followed, the man Avon had never quite admitted to following, was simply gone? The crew tracked their former leader across space. Tarrant, Sulin, Vila, Dana. They went where Avon went, into what might be a reunion, or might be something far worse. They landed on Gouda Prime. They found Blake. And then the truth came out. But not the way anyone expected. What Blake had actually become. Blake hadn't broken. He hadn't sold out. He hadn't traded the cause for comfort or survival. The bounty hunter cover was exactly that, a cover. A method of identifying potential recruits on a lawless world where trust couldn't be assumed and loyalty had to be tested before it could be given. Blake was doing what Blake always did, building something, finding people worth saving and giving them a reason to fight. He was still Blake, still believing in the impossible, still refusing to stop. But information had been poisoned somewhere along the line.
Tarrant, arriving separately and under pressure, had been fed a version of events that made Blake look like a Federation informant. When the crew finally reunited after years of separation, the air between them was thick with something that had no business being there. Blake moved toward Avon. In another version of this story, it's a reunion. Brothers who'd argued constantly, finally back together. Avon saw something else, something his long years of survival had trained him to see in any sudden movement, any unexpected gesture.
We have to win. It's the only way I can be sure that I was right.
The moment everything ended, Blake fell. Avon had shot him. Kerr Avon, the man who trusted no one, who had survived everything by assuming the worst and acting before the worst could act first, had just killed Roj Blake. The idealist fell at the hands of the cynic. The man who believed in humanity was killed by the man who'd spent years insisting he didn't. A revolution ended in a single moment of terrible, irrevocable misunderstanding. Avon stood over Blake's body and understood what he'd done. Then the Federation arrived. Commissioner Sleer, Servalan, always Servalan, had been ahead of them the entire time. The trap hadn't just been set, it had been designed. Every piece of information that led them to Gouda Prime, every fragment of intelligence that had pointed them here, had been carefully arranged. Federation guards poured into the room with weapons raised. Tarrant fell, then Sulin, then Dana, one by one, with the mechanical efficiency of a plan that had always been going to end this way. Vila, cowardly, loyal, irreplaceable Vila, went down still reaching for cover that wasn't there, that had never been there. One man left standing, surrounded on all sides. Blake's body at his feet, his crew destroyed around him. Everything he'd ever been part of, gone. Avon looked down at Blake, then he looked up at his executioners. And Kerr Avon smiled. He raised his weapon. The screen cut to black. Gunshots rang out over the closing credits, and then silence. The series ended. Not with hope, not with victory, not even with the dignity of a clear answer, with annihilation.
Profound philosophical questions never really interested me.
Not up to your usual standard?
Yes, well, I'm tired.
Why it ended this way. The show concluded in 1981 with that devastating finale, and the choice to end so definitively was not accidental. After 4 series of rebellion and sacrifice, Blake 7 ended the only way it could honestly end, with the Federation standing and the rebels destroyed. Understood that fighting tyranny extracts an enormous price. The bill simply came due in that final room on Gouda Prime.
It just occurred to me that as the description of a highly sophisticated technological achievement,
The ambiguity that haunted a generation. Here's what kept viewers arguing for the next 4 decades. Did everyone actually die? Blake's death was unambiguous. We watched him fall. But the others? Tarrant, Sulin, Vila, Dana. They were attacked, yes, but the screen never showed their final moments with certainty. And Avon? We heard the shots. We never saw him hit the ground. Had a fifth series been commissioned, writers would have had room to work with. Wounds that weren't fatal. Someone who escaped in the chaos. The ending was designed to function as a cliffhanger as much as a conclusion, a door left fractionally open. But that door never opened. No fifth series came. The ambiguity became permanent, and perhaps that's exactly right.
That is it, Avon. I've had it. Either you tell us what it's all about, or we're going to stop it.
No, you're not.
The legacy that refused to die. Blake 7 shaped everything that came after it. The moral complexity, the flawed heroes who made genuinely terrible choices, the villains you couldn't help respecting. This template quietly rewired what science fiction television thought it was allowed to do. Every story about anti-heroes, about rebellions that extract unbearable costs, about the personal price of fighting battles that were probably always unwinnable. They owe a debt to Blake and his crew that's rarely acknowledged but always present. Revival attempts have surfaced across the years. Audio dramas continued the story in their own form. Fans kept the fire burning through conventions and communities and obsessive rewatching. The property has been discussed for potential return to screens multiple times, though nothing has successfully managed to bring it back. Perhaps that's entirely appropriate. Some stories end completely. Some rebellions fail without qualification. Blake 7 had the rare courage to show us what that actually looks like. From Blake's impossible dream to Avon's final smile in the face of everything, Blake 7 gave us 4 years of revolution, betrayal, and the terrible cost of refusing to stop hoping. It showed us heroes who lost, villains who won, and an ending that refused to offer even a single comfortable answer. That finale shocked audiences in 1981. It still shocks today. Because Blake 7 understood something most television has always been too afraid to say out loud. Sometimes the darkness wins. Sometimes the best people die for nothing. Sometimes the only thing left is to raise your weapon, smile at the inevitable, and go down on your own terms. The courage of that ending, the sheer, defiant audacity of refusing to save anyone, is what made Blake's 7 unforgettable. So tell me, were you Team Blake or Team Avon? Did you believe in the cause, or did you calculate the odds? Drop your answer in the comments below. If this trip through the Federation's darkest hour hit you somewhere deep in the nostalgia, hit subscribe. More stories from the vault are on their way. Until next time, stay free, trust no one, and always watch your back. The Federation is always listening.